Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that everything you've been taught about chasing, pleading, and proving yourself is wrong? That the more you run after people, recognition, or opportunities, the further away they actually get? Imagine a life where you no longer beg, no longer chase, and no longer compromise your worth. And yet the world comes to you. Today, I want to show you how to stop reacting, stop seeking approval, and start becoming so magnetic, so undeniable, and so unreachable, that influence, respect, and opportunity no longer have to be hunted, they are drawn to you naturally. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine for a moment that every interaction you have, every relationship, every opportunity, begins with a simple question. Why do you want it? Why are you chasing it? Why are you begging for it? Most of us spend our lives running after things, people, recognition, validation, thinking that if we hold on just a little tighter, if we chase just a little harder, life will finally notice us. And yet, what we fail to realize is that chasing is a sign of fear, begging is a sign of doubt. The world doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to confidence, to presence, to someone who stands unwavering in their own value. When you decide to stop chasing, when you decide to stop begging, something remarkable happens. You step into a state of being that is unshakable. You stop seeking approval because you no longer need it. You stop pursuing opportunities because you have already become the opportunity. You stop asking for attention because you realize that the right people, the right circumstances, will naturally find you. You become unreachable not in the sense that you are distant, but in the sense that you are whole. You are not dependent on external validation to define your worth. You have built your foundation so firmly that nothing outside of you can shake it. This isn't easy. In a culture that glorifies the chase, that applauds the persistent, that mistakes struggle for significance, resisting the urge to chase can feel counterintuitive. You will see others sprinting, stretching, clawing, and it will tempt you to do the same. But the difference between someone who chases and someone who becomes unreachable is the difference between being reactive and being intentional. One is constantly responding to what the world throws at them. The other is creating a gravitational pull that attracts what aligns with their values, their purpose, their vision. Think about the most influential people you know, those whose presence commands attention without them demanding it. What is it that makes them magnetic? It's not that they begged to be heard. It's not that they chased recognition. It's that they cultivated mastery, they cultivated clarity, and they cultivated integrity. They understood their worth, and because of that, they became untouchable in a sense, not arrogant, but undeniable. They created a space where only what was aligned with their purpose could enter, and everything else simply fell away. To become unreachable, you must start with yourself. Ask the hard questions. What am I willing to compromise for? What am I willing to chase? What am I begging for that I don't actually need? And then have the courage to stop. Stop negotiating your value with others. Stop explaining yourself. Stop running toward approval. Start building a life that is so rooted in meaning, in purpose, and in self-respect that you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. And here's the paradox. Once you stop chasing, once you stop begging, you actually become more present, more impactful, more visible. You stop exhausting yourself on what doesn't matter and focus entirely on what does. You stop scattering your energy and begin concentrating it. You stop reacting to the noise and start resonating with the signal, and when you do this, people begin to seek you out. Opportunities appear not because you demanded them, but because your presence became undeniable. It requires patience. It requires discipline. It requires a level of self-awareness that many avoid, but the rewards are profound. You stop being a participant in someone else's game and start creating your own. You stop being measured by external standards and start being measured by your internal compass. You stop being vulnerable to manipulation and start being untouchable in your influence. You become the person who doesn't just survive the chaos of the world, but who moves through it with clarity, with purpose, with authority. When you commit to this path, you discover something even deeper. The world cannot take from you what you already embody. You cannot be rejected by what already exists within you. You cannot be diminished by what others fail to offer because you are whole. And in that wholeness, in that state of being unreachable, you finally experience freedom. The freedom to choose who and what you allow into your life, the freedom to operate without fear, and the freedom to lead from a place of certainty rather than desperation. And when you reach that level of presence, something shifts in the way the world interacts with you. People stop testing your boundaries because they sense that your boundaries exist for a reason, that your time, your energy, your attention are not commodities to be taken lightly. You will find that the quality of your relationships transforms. Connections are no longer transactional, they are intentional. People who are aligned with your values, who respect your space and honor your purpose, naturally gravitate toward you. Those who do not, they drift away, and you no longer waste energy trying to keep them close. There is liberation in that. There is clarity. There is a power in understanding that your influence is defined not by how many people you impress, but by the depth of impact you create with those who truly matter. Becoming unreachable is not about isolation. It is not about building walls that separate you from the world. It is about building an inner fortress so strong that external circumstances cannot penetrate it. It is about being so secure in your identity, so anchored in your principles, that the storms of life may swirl around you, but they cannot pull you off course. You operate from a place of strength rather than need, from a place of vision rather than desperation, and from a place of trust rather than fear. People are drawn to strength, to certainty, to authenticity, and that is exactly what you cultivate when you stop chasing and begging. This journey demands that you redefine success, because chasing and begging are often born from a false definition of achievement, believing that approval, recognition, or possession validates your worth. But true success is not about accumulation, it is about alignment. It is about becoming someone who can move through life with integrity, who can make decisions rooted in purpose rather than pressure, who can maintain composure when the world expects urgency or compromise. It is about designing a life where your energy is invested only in what strengthens your character, expands your potential, and deepens your impact. And the beauty of this approach is that it cultivates resilience. When you are no longer dependent on external forces to feel whole, rejection no longer feels like failure. Criticism does not wound you, it informs you. Change does not destabilize you, it refines you. You build a rhythm of life that is steady, intentional, and unshakable. You learn to trust in your own trajectory because you understand that value cannot be handed to you. It must be embodied. And when you embody it, you no longer have to fight for it. You no longer have to negotiate it. It exists undeniable within you. Imagine the ripple effect of such a transformation. When you operate from a place of unshakable self-respect, your work becomes more impactful. Your ideas gain clarity because they are not diluted by the need for approval. Your communication becomes compelling because it is rooted in authenticity rather than persuasion. Your leadership, your influence, your presence, these expand naturally because they are magnetic, not manufactured. People follow those who inspire, not those who chase. They are drawn to those who are steady, not those who are anxious. They respect those who stand firm, not those who bend to the demands of others. And this does not happen overnight. Becoming unreachable requires a daily practice of self-awareness. It requires reflecting on your motives, questioning your habits, and rigorously examining where your energy is going. It requires the courage to say no to distractions, to unhealthy relationships, and to opportunities that do not align with your vision. It requires patience when progress seems slow, faith when results are unseen, and persistence in cultivating a presence that cannot be shaken by the world's volatility. But every effort compounds. Every day that you choose intentionality over desperation, presence over pursuit, alignment over approval, you grow stronger. You grow more magnetic, you grow more untouchable. And perhaps the most profound truth is this: becoming unreachable is not about what you gain, but about what you lose: fear, insecurity, dependency, and the constant, exhausting need for validation. Once you shed these, life feels less like a struggle and more like a flow. Opportunities no longer need to be chased. They arrive because you have created a force of presence that attracts what belongs in your orbit. Relationships no longer need to be pleaded for. They emerge because you are whole and others recognize completeness. Influence is no longer borrowed. It is earned naturally because of who you are, not what you have done to convince the world to notice you. At this point, life stops being a series of reactions and starts becoming a series of choices. You choose what to engage with, what to pursue, and what to release. You choose how to spend your energy and who to allow into your circle. You choose to operate from a place of abundance, not lack, of power, not need, of clarity, not confusion. And in making these choices, you become the architect of your own life, the curator of your own influence, and the guardian of your own value. This is the essence of becoming unreachable. It is not defiance, it is not arrogance, it is mastery over self, presence in purpose, and courage in alignment. And as you live this way, the world responds not because you demanded it to, but because you no longer needed it to. When you begin to operate from this level of presence, the choices you make become deliberate. You stop reacting impulsively to circumstances that once dictated your mood, your energy, your confidence. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to express clarity, integrity, and intentionality. You notice the difference between urgency and importance, between distraction and focus, between validation and alignment. The energy you once poured into chasing fades into a more refined force, one that creates impact, inspires respect, and draws the right opportunities toward you effortlessly. You learn that your time is finite, your attention is precious, and your presence is powerful, and when you honor that, the world begins to honor it too. Being unreachable means becoming immune to manipulation. When you stop needing approval, when you stop begging for acknowledgement, the tactics people use to influence you no longer work. Flattery falls flat, pressure becomes powerless. Attempts to provoke a reaction bounce off the fortress of your self-awareness. This is not arrogance, it is mastery. It is understanding that the currency of life is not the approval of others, but the integrity of your choices. You are no longer a pawn in someone else's game because you have claimed authority over your own. You lead from a place of confidence rather than desperation, from a place of strength rather than fear. And the people who truly matter, the ones whose presence is aligned with your purpose, they respond differently when you operate this way. They respect your boundaries, they mirror your confidence, they value your energy and treat it as the treasure it is. The relationships you cultivate in this state are not transactional, they are symbiotic. They are built on mutual respect, shared vision, and genuine connection. You no longer need to chase approval because the people worth having in your life are naturally drawn to your stability, your clarity, and your authenticity. Becoming unreachable is also about mastering patience. The world is filled with noise, with pressure, with expectations that demand immediate response. But the most powerful people are not hurried. They understand the difference between action and reaction. They understand that influence cannot be forced and that impact cannot be rushed. They are deliberate in how they spend their energy and strategic in how they shape their presence. Every decision, every interaction, every choice is guided by purpose, not by the anxiety of what might be lost if they hesitate. This mindset fundamentally shifts how you measure success. No longer is it a scoreboard of likes, recognition, or external validation. Success becomes internal. Success becomes about alignment with your values, your vision, and your capabilities. It is about the growth you cultivate in yourself and the positive influence you generate in others. When you stop chasing and begging, you step into a space where success is defined by mastery of self rather than manipulation of circumstance. And when your standard for success is internal, you are no longer vulnerable to the whims of external forces. There is a certain elegance in this way of living. You begin to see patterns, to recognize opportunities before they arrive, to anticipate challenges without fear. The world begins to move differently around you because you have moved differently within yourself. You are no longer visible because you demand attention. You are visible because your presence radiates clarity, confidence, and purpose. People are drawn to that energy not because they have to be, but because it resonates with something deep within them. You become a magnetic force simply by being grounded, intentional, and unshakable. And with this, your perspective on influence changes entirely. Influence is no longer about persuasion, manipulation, or chasing. Influence becomes a natural byproduct of being unwavering in your principles, deliberate in your actions, and authentic in your presence. You inspire because people see your clarity and want to mirror it. You lead because your actions demonstrate mastery and integrity. You impact because you have become a source of stability in a world that is constantly seeking validation from the wrong places. This journey is not easy. It requires relentless honesty with yourself, the courage to confront your insecurities, and the discipline to let go of attachments that no longer serve your purpose. But every moment of effort compounds. Every time you resist the urge to chase, every time you refuse to beg, every time you honor your own presence over external demand, you grow stronger. You grow wiser, you grow magnetic, you grow unreachable in the truest sense, a state of being that cannot be compromised by circumstance, diminished by others, or shaken by fear. And the paradox of becoming unreachable is profound. The more you let go of chasing, the more opportunities flow to you. The more you stop begging for attention, the more attention comes naturally. The more you invest in being whole rather than dependent, the more people, circumstances, and outcomes align with you effortlessly. You realize that life does not need to be fought for, it needs to be aligned with. The energy that once scattered into chasing and begging is now concentrated into mastery, presence, and purpose, creating a gravitational pull that attracts the right opportunities, relationships, and experiences toward you. At this level, you are no longer reacting to the world. You are shaping it. You no longer seek approval, you create influence. You no longer fear loss. You embody abundance. And in doing so, you become a force that the world cannot ignore, not because you demanded it, but because you no longer needed it to. And once you reach this stage, something remarkable happens. Your life begins to operate on a higher plane of clarity. You begin to notice the difference between what demands your attention and what deserves it. You start to recognize that not every fight is yours to fight. Not every opinion is yours to validate. Not every opportunity is yours to chase. The energy you once spent in constant motion, in endless pursuit, is now invested in alignment, in preparation, and in mastery. You realize that influence is never borrowed, it is earned through presence, that respect is never demanded, it is cultivated through integrity, and that impact is never forced, it is created through focus. When you embody this state of being unreachable, you stop reacting to the pressures of the outside world. You no longer need to prove yourself to others because you have already proven yourself to yourself. You no longer chase approval because you have internalized your value. You no longer beg for attention because you understand that those who truly matter will come to you naturally, drawn by the magnetism of your authenticity. And in that space, you are no longer vulnerable to the chaos around you. You are steady, deliberate, and unshakable. This is not about arrogance or isolation. It is about mastery over self and life. It is about learning the power of intentional absence, the force of selective engagement, and the strength in measured presence. By being unreachable, you are not shutting the world out. You are curating it. You choose where your energy goes, who receives your time, and what deserves your focus. This is the foundation of sustainable success, influence, and fulfillment. You operate from a place of abundance, not scarcity. From a place of strength, not need. From a place of clarity, not confusion. And as you continue on this path, you realize that the world begins to respond differently to you. You no longer chase opportunities, they present themselves. You no longer seek validation. It arrives naturally from those who recognize your value. You no longer fight to be heard, your presence commands attention. The energy you have cultivated, the confidence you have nurtured, and the clarity you have achieved all create a gravitational pull. The right people, circumstances, and opportunities cannot help but align with your orbit. You discover that influence is not a transaction, it is an effect of being fully realized. Becoming unreachable also transforms how you navigate relationships. You begin to see who adds value, who aligns with your vision, and who respects your boundaries. You learn to say no with grace, to disengage from what drains you, and to invest deeply only where it matters. This is the essence of intentional living, not scattering your energy across the world, but concentrating it where it creates the most impact. People are drawn to those who are whole, not those who are desperate. They are inspired by those who operate from clarity, not those who chase in confusion. They follow those who demonstrate mastery, not those who plead for attention. There is also an inherent resilience that comes with being unreachable. Life will always present challenges, setbacks, and disappointments, but when your worth is not defined by outcomes or external forces, these obstacles cannot shake you. Criticism becomes insight, rejection becomes feedback, and change becomes an opportunity for growth rather than a threat. You operate from a place of composure, knowing that your foundation is unshakable, that your energy is finite and precious, and that your presence alone is enough to create the influence and impact you desire. This level of self-mastery requires discipline and patience. It demands that you examine every motive, every habit, and every attachment. It requires you to let go of what no longer serves your growth, even if it is familiar or comfortable. It asks you to confront insecurity, to embrace uncertainty, and to cultivate a presence that cannot be swayed by the expectations or opinions of others. And in doing so, you build not just a life, but a legacy, one defined not by what you chased or begged for, but by what you embodied and created. When you live in this state, the paradox is undeniable. By letting go, you gain more. By stopping the chase, you attract more. By refusing to beg, you command respect naturally. The very things the world told you were necessary to achieve recognition, influence, connection, come to you effortlessly because you have built a presence that cannot be ignored. You are no longer dependent on external validation, for you have cultivated an internal authority that is undeniable, and this authority radiates, influencing everyone around you, shaping circumstances without force and creating opportunities without demand. Being unreachable also transforms your relationship with time. You no longer feel the urgency to act out of fear of missing out. You no longer measure your success against the pace of others. Instead, you operate in rhythm with your own growth, your own readiness, and your own purpose. You learn to trust the process, to honor your own pace, and to recognize that timing is a function of alignment, not desperation. Every action is deliberate, every choice intentional, every movement aligned with a higher purpose. And as this continues, you begin to realize the deeper truth. Life does not need to be forced, and influence does not need to be demanded. You do not need to chase to be seen, to be heard, or to be valued. When you cultivate presence, integrity, and self-mastery, the world naturally responds. You become a person of influence not because you begged for it, not because you chased it, but because you embodied it. Your presence alone creates a force that the world cannot ignore, a force that draws the right people, the right opportunities, and the right outcomes toward you effortlessly.